Welcome to Wonky Moon Crafts. This is a knitting podcast. Mostly I talk about knitting. Occasionally I'll talk about crocheting, yarn dyeing, whatever crafty things I may get up to. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm so excited you're here. And if you're new here, like I said, this is a knitting podcast. For the most part, I follow the traditional knitting podcast format. We'll talk about what I'm wearing, finished objects, whips that I've been working on, new cast on I have this week, and then also some acquisitions and my experience. I recently went to Yarncentrick and Maryland Sheep and Wool Fiber Festival, so we'll talk about those couple things. Again, if you're new here, my name is Wendy. I live in Northeast Ohio in the United States, and I'm so excited you're here and to talk about knitting. If that sounds like fun for you, I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Hi. Okay, so a little housekeeping. I have been one off this week, so I've gotten a little more knitting done than I normally do since my last podcast. I also have been a little sick this week because, of course, if you take time off, clearly you're going to get it sick. So I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to try to keep it high energy, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best. That being said, I actually already recorded a couple segments and then realized that I forgot to put this on and to talk about this. I forgot that I haven't talked about this on the show yet as one of my finished objects. So this is the Seashore Blouse by Veronica Lindberg or Kuta Kavika. And this is colorway Pink Daisies. It is Knitting for Olives, pure silk, held double. And I really, really like it. I'm going to put some pictures up so you can see it in full. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. So I wound up making the extra small. And so full disclosure, and I talked about this I think the last time I talked about this. So one of the things to keep in mind here is my chest circumference is 34.5 inches. And if you look at the way the sizes fall for this pattern, in the recommended bust ease, I don't fall there's actually more there's more of a difference between the extra small and the small than any other size range. So for example, like the extra small to the small, and then like small to medium, it's only a couple inches, where it's like, I think it's like 4 inches or almost 4 inches between the extra small and the small. And then I think the ease that's recommended is like 2 inches. So the way it fell, like I would have a significantly larger sweater if I went up. Whereas if I went down, even though technically the finished circumference was like 33.5 inches, I think, and that was realistically going to be too small, I figured two things. One, I tend to knit a little bit looser. Not a lot, but a little bit looser. So I figured if I just knit my normal way and whatever, then it'd probably wind up a little bigger anyway. And I figured I could always stretch it a bit and pin it to get it to dry to the measurements that I wanted. So that is what I did. And it worked out. Like I said, I really like the fit. I think it came out really nicely. I wound up blocking this and pinning it to, I think, about 36 inches width this way. And then, just pin the bottom as much as I could. I will tell you too that for these cuffs, now this is particularly a thing for the waistband. Also, full disclosure, my hips, if you were to go, your typical person, let's just say you wear a small on top, you wear a small on bottom. That is not the case for me. I wear a small on top and I wear a medium on bottom. Like my bottom half is not proportional to my upper half. The sew, which tends to mean that like the hem of shirts and things like that, if they're very long, if they go not long, even just normal length, but if they go down past my hip bones any amount of length, they tend to be a little snug on me around my hips because again, I'm wearing a smaller size on the top than what I would wear on the bottom. So that being said, um, when you make this pattern, you go down a needle size, maybe it was like half a needle size for the cuffs, which is totally fine here. But I did that on the waist and I shouldn't have because I was already going down a size and this is pure silk. And so for a million reasons, I should have just probably just kept using the same needle size for the waistband because I have stretched it as much as it can be stretched when I was blocking it. It doesn't look, I think it looks fine, and which maybe I can even show you here a little bit. I think it looks fine. I have a tank top on underneath, it's nude colored, but I think it looks fine the way it is. But but that it was definitely a worry for me there for a hot minute. And it does fit now fine. Like I said, stretching it as much as I did, it totally fits fine. But if you are similar to me or you just don't want a very tight um, bottom because it isn't, this is, it's not cropped. It's not going to be a cropped thing. It comes to a nice length. It's not super long or anything. It's not cropped. So if you make this pattern, that is something you may want to consider is what if you want to go all the way down on that needle size for the waistband. Like I said, the wrists I think are fine. I just, that bottom one for me personally, like I said, average person is probably fine if you are the same size and same size. I'm just not. So that was a trick for me. So that being said, again, I do love this pattern. I love this yarn. I wore this all day when I went to Yarncentrick. That was the first time I wore it, and I really, really liked it. It's not too cold, not too warm. Yeah, I do intend to make the matching skirt, but with some of the other whips and certain things I have going right now, my test knit has a deadline of June 1st. I need to finish that up so that I can start on this, but I'm very excited to start on this skirt to match this. I already have the yarn and everything that'll be in the same color, and it has the same basic lace pattern design, so I'm very excited. But I couldn't be happier with this. What I have discovered about myself over the last, I don't know, year. Yeah, year. I had made the champagne pullover. I made some other things with lace and currently working on something with cables. I like a chart. I've I, I'm okay with color work, but I really like lace and cables. I like that extra bit of crunchiness for my brain. Now, granted, that being said, I do like to mix in a more simpler project as kind of my like, if it's too much for my brain today, I can work on that. So I always have something to knit on depending on where I am, like how much I can focus on something. But I do tend to really, really like having something where I'm following the charts and doing all the things. And so I the pattern was really easy to follow. She has a tutorial you can watch online for the top and the skirt, and she also has a dress in the same basic like overall pattern. And honestly, it wasn't bad at all. It definitely takes, you really have to um watch particularly certain parts because I will say, like, as you can see, this like diamond pattern, once you get it started and you get used to it going, you kind of get a feel for like, okay, it's 3-2-1, 3-2-1. And I put stitch markers between every repeat on the little graph. So that way it's easy for me to quickly see that I'm like on the right track and I haven't made a mistake. So it's real easy also for me to go, okay, well on this, once I like look at the beginning of the row and I'm like, oh, it's this row. Okay. So then I don't have to look at it the entire time I go around the row. There's definitely, I've done other pattern like a champagne pullover, you have to do that. So you can kind of go, okay, well it's 3, whatever it is, like, knit 3, decrease 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Okay, now you do like the mirror image of that on the other side, whatever. So anyway, it isn't as bad as or as intimidating as it might look. That being said, again, you are going to have to look at charts. There are definitely certain rows and spots where you have to really, really pay attention to what you're doing, especially when you're going from like one, because you can see here it's like the diamond shapes, and then there's a different pattern completely, and then the diamonds again. So when you're switching from one to the other, and you're kind of setting up the next pattern, that is the part where I like really, really had to pay attention, because it wasn't like I could just look at the row above and go, oh, the row I'm not above, but the row I had just done, and go, oh, well, here's where I'm at. So this is what I should be doing because that's what I just did down here. You don't have that at all. You don't have a baseline. You're just like, and sometimes you have to move your little stitch markers because the actual repeat amount of stitches in the repeat changes. Um, that only is, I think, on one chart compared to all the other charts, but still, there was definitely something that, added an extra layer of like, is this right? So, but again, I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. I did really enjoy it, and I can't wait. I mean, I think the true test is, one, that I love this, and 2, that I can't wait to make the skirt. So clearly I must have liked it enough that I'm excited to go to make the next part of this. And I think they're going to look so good together. I'm so excited. So that is the Seashore Blouse by Veronica Lindberg. Another finished object. I finished my socks. So I finished another pair of socks. So that being said, this is the I'm So Basic Socks by Summer Lee. This is colorway Anchors Away. This is Winter Storm. This is by Aisling Yarns. It is a BFL British wool. It also has a bit of nylon on it. It's a little bit of a tougher feeling wool. It's really nice. Highly recommend Aisling Yarns if you want to check them out. I will link them below. Um, they're very wonderful. And yeah, so this has the heel flap gusset. It's this part, these little, yeah. And so the thought process being for this particular one is because one of the problems I've always had is that around this part of the foot, socks are too tight for me. I've done the shadow wrap heel before, and while I like knitting that, it doesn't fit me right here very well, which this is the widest part of my foot. Most patterns and things will tell you this is the widest part of most people's feet, but that is not the case for me, which I guess means I have a higher arch. But so this, this gusset and stuff here and this heel flap allows kind of for this extra triangle of room, which makes this part a bit wider. And so I made this 2 pattern exactly as it said. The only exception, I think I made this a little bit shorter. I think she says 6 inches and I made it like 4.5 or something. But otherwise I made it exactly to pattern. I wanted to just see how, if I made it to pattern, how that would fit around the arch of my foot. It is still a little snug. I have not blocked this yet, and I have not worn them yet. Just trying them on though, they fit snugly, and it is still a little tight around here. So in theory, I could increase the flap a little bit longer so that there's more of this little triangle to add more space here. But I didn't want to, like I said, I just wanted to do it to pattern to kind of figure out if it was going to work for me or not. So that is where I started. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. Let me see how pretty that yarn is. Oh, it's so pretty. So yeah, we'll see how it wears once I've blocked it and I like wear it for a day and so, and see how it fits, if it loosens up a lot. But as of right now, I'm pretty happy with this. So that is the I'm So Basic Socks by Summerly. Let's talk about my test knit. So I don't remember how much of this I showed before. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok or watch the YouTube shorts that I've done, you will have seen my Whip Wednesdays and you will have definitely seen this. I am doing I know I talked about it last time, but this is the Little Fosteriana by Roundtree Stitchery Designs. And this is a test knit, so it's not out yet, but hopefully it'll be coming out soon. And this, I'm making, so this is a children's pattern. I'm making the 2 to 4 year old size. And I'm making this out of Purl Soho's linen quill. And this is an alpaca linen wool yarn. The Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. So again, this pattern's not out yet. It'll be coming out. If you might have seen this similar motif before, she does have a cowl and an adult version of this that has this stitch pattern on it. And so you can definitely check those out. That's the Fosteriana and the Fosteriana cowl. As I said, this is going to be called the Little Fosteriana, and this is going to be the pullover version. There's going to be a cardigan and a pullover, and I'll put a picture up so you can see what it should look like when it's finished. But so as you can see, I finished one row of this flower motif, and then there's going to be a second row of that. Then there's also going to be a row of them around the cuffs on each arm. And so I'm coming along pretty good. This is fingering weight yarn, and here's the thing. This is definitely a little above my skill level. Being said, the pattern has tons of tutorial videos from everything you can possibly imagine that you might want to know how to do. Like, there's a video for it in this pattern. So as far as all the tools and all the things you need to be able to do this are there for you. It is, I swatched. I would highly recommend if it's something you're considering to swatch it, or maybe even make the cowl before you dive fully in. As this is, so it's 3-color work through this part, and then I don't know if you can see here, because I didn't realize this until I started working on it, but it's cables also. So you're doing 3-color work and cables at the same time. Which, as I said, I like doing cables. And I've done some color work, and while I don't like color work as much as lace and cables, I do like color work all right. I've done very, very little 3-color work, and I haven't even done that much 2-color work. So now I'm doing 3-color work and cables at the same time. That is a lot. So I am very hopeful that once this blocks, it will kind of, I'm trying to stretching it a little bit there to try to, hopefully it'll make it look nice and smooth and pretty. Of course, I also chose, the recommended yarn is a wool yarn that's good for color work and stuff like that. Of course, I picked linen quill, which I was really excited to try the yarn, and I do really like it. But obviously, it's just not going to fluff up the same as like 100% wool yarn or whatever. But at the same time, it's also the beginning of May. This test knit is due by the end of June. And I'm knitting this for a friend of mine's daughter who's 2, and kids grow fast. Like, I don't know how much, I don't, I don't, I don't know how long she'll be able to wear it. So I didn't want it to be some heavy wool that I give to her right into going into summer. And then, she can't wear it when it gets cold because it's too small. I was a little nervous about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have worried about that, but that's just me. So hopefully she'll be able to get some wear out of it. It is a 2 to 4-year-old size, and she's 2. So hopefully she'll be able to wear it for a little while. But either way, I think having the little bit of linen in it will at least make it a little bit more season, um, something they can wear a little bit more year round. Although not all year round, obviously, but more so. Also, I, they do not live where I live. I live further north. They live in a slightly warmer climate than I do. Not a hot one, but slightly warmer than me. So they're not going to get super cold winters like I get here. So hopefully this will be good for her and she'll be able to enjoy it. That being said, here's what I still have to do. So there's like, you want to talk about learning new skills. I've learned so many new skills and I have so many more to learn still. So, you know, while I have to take things really slow um, with this color work and cable at the same time thing, and so it's going much slower than I had anticipated that it would, I am also really happy with the fact that I feel like I'm learning new stuff and I feel like I'm becoming a better knitter from having like stretched my um, what I felt comfortable with and what I thought I was capable of. So that has been really, really nice. And I do highly recommend, you know, stretching yourself sometimes, whatever that may be. It's okay. And if you don't like it, stop. But you know, it never hurts to try. And you know, the more we do things, the better we get at them. So that being said, from here, you have so there's little stems for each of the flowers, and you can knit those while you knit this, but as you can imagine, there's no world in which I'm knitting another color in with this while I do this. It's not happening. But there is videos and instructions on how to do the double stitching, which I have never done before, so that'll be fun and exciting. The other thing that I'm really excited for and I think is going to be cute is there's instructions to knit a little bee, and then you can stitch the little bee on, and then you give it little zoomy lines. So I think that'll be really cute to add a little bit of whimsy to this. So yeah, I'm excited for this. As I said, it is due by June 1st. So this is kind of well, it is my top priority because I have a deadline to get it done by. At this point, I've got 3 weeks to finish it. But I think I think it's just the flowers that really slow me down. The rest of it isn't too bad. I think I can get going. So, um, yeah, so that's where we're at. I'm on that second row though. I don't know if you can see that. But again, here's like a little close up of what that pattern looks like. Hopefully, like I said, it'll block out a little bit nicer, but that's where we. So that is the Little Fosteriana by Roundtree Stitchery Designs, and this will be not out yet, but will be coming out. So keep your eye out for this. I definitely recommend it, but again, be forewarned, it is a little tricky. It's got a little trickiness to it, but definitely doable. All right, I'm very excited about this. I have a new cast on. I seriously cast this on yesterday, and I feel like I'm far on it. Maybe I'm not, but I feel like I am. So again, I went to Yarncentrick last weekend, and I and Maryland Sheep and Wool. I got first off this bag. How much fun is this bag? This is Black Pearl Magic. I got this at their booth, and I got a little. It opens like this, so it's got a little. And I got this little notions pouch for it, but I got this yarn from Wool and Vinyl is what the name of the vendor was. And so if you watched my other video where I talked about what I kind of was purchasing for and what my thoughts were, I wanted to make the Underlace tee, and I specifically had in mind that I wanted it to be black with the black lace and then have like some bright like pink, tealy, whatever colors as the contrasting stripes. I got it. I got it. This booth was the perfect spot to find this yarn, by the way. I was like, oh, that's where I'm going to find the yarn. I have already knit the front and back panel, and I just joined in the round. Like literally right before this. Do you like it? Okay, it's not for everyone, so I get that you may not, but I love this. Like, love it. And when I don't know, something about too adding like the little lace collar and details to it, I just think it'll be fantastic. And I want to wear it with, I already have it pictured in my mind. I have some black linen dress shorts that I want to wear this with. I think it'll be so cute and like sort of punk nod, but like still like dressy. So very me. This is very me. This is the stripes that this is me. But anyway, so I'm very excited about it. I got my little penguin stitch markers, and I've got little stitch markers here. I got these these I got from Bah Humble, I think is what the name of the place was. These I got, aren't they cute? These I got from Camp Stitchwood at Yarncentrick. I got this little button too, this little badge. You see it? So yeah, that is, oops, that is the Underlace top by Lily Kate France. I didn't say that yet. This by Lily Kate France. And the colorways are, look at them, they're amazing. The black is Aussie. This, let's see. The pink is Ringo. This is their label. And which I just saw they're opening up, or they just opened up their Advent for this Christmas time, December, whatever, holiday season. I have only done an Advent once before, but I have to admit I am tempted to do their Advent because I love, and they're not all neon colors and stuff, although they have neon colors, but they're all these like bright pops of color, which I love. Anyway, this color is called Crystal Blue Persuasion. And these are fingering weight. Let's see, what are they? They're fingering weight, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. 400 yards, 100 grams. So I was really happy with that. I was really happy with their yarn selection. And I definitely somebody I immediately started following on Instagram so I can keep an eye out for what other stuff they may have or where else they might be. But I'm very excited about this project. So that is my Underlace top by Lily Kate France. All right, so that's all my whips, my projects that I finished, and so on. As I said, I went to Yarncentrick and Maryland Sheep and Wool this past weekend, so I thought I'd give a little bit of a recap of that experience and how that was. While I do that, I figured I'd show you some of the things that I got. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, I put on Instagram the yarn that I got along with what I intended to make it with. Mostly that was also based off of my shopping list video that I had done a couple weeks ago and put out. So feel free to check all those things out to see kind of what I'm talking about. But I wound up getting a lot of yarn. I already have a lot of yarn, so which that's fine. I'm good with that. But that being said, I have a backlog of projects to make, so I don't need any yarn anytime soon. Not saying I will not buy yarn, but I don't have any intention or reason to at this point. So that's where I'm at. So first things first, let me show you one of the things I wanted to get was some buttons. So I did get these buttons. Honestly, I don't remember what the name of the store was, but they will be at, I think I said they would be at Rhinebeck, one of the Rhinebeck events. As I said, I went to Camp Stitchery. I also got this little sticker, which I love the chickadees, as I have my chickadee tattoo, and I love feeding the chickadees. And I got the Black Pearl Magic bag, and I also got this bag because I couldn't resist it. Absolutely love. It is by stash-bags.com. You can see the, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so here's how it goes. I sometimes have to go to Maryland for work. And so I kind of timed things out so that I would go to Maryland for work a few days, during the week. And then I took off Friday so that I could then go to Yarncentrick while I was in Maryland, and go to Maryland Sheep and Wool on Saturday, and then fly home on Sunday. And then I head off this whole past week as it was my anniversary. This is also the first time I've ever gone to Yarncentrick or Maryland Sheep and Wool, because typically it is actually during my anniversary. So I've never gone before, even though, like, relatively me being in Ohio, Maryland, as I said, I travel to Maryland for work, something that I could have reasonably worked out in the past, but with my anniversary, this didn't make sense. But this year, because it fell closer to the end of April, beginning of May, first weekend of May, I was able to go ahead and go and still be home and spend the whole week with my husband for our anniversary. So, that being the case, I went by myself. And here's the thing. So, a little bit about me, explain my personality a little bit and how I am. I work in a very social environment. I have to talk to a lot of people, but I'm also talking about very specific things. When I was younger, I was very, very shy, and because of that, I think I wasn't very good at always talking to people, especially like starting conversations, carrying conversations, doing those kinds of things. And given my position and what I do, and that and I don't want to get into what I do, but it is very customer service related. So I talk to a lot of people. I have gotten much, much better at talking to people and like building up those skills of like how to start conversations and how to bring people in and so on. And that being the case, while I've improved, I think, at those skills, and I've gotten better, it is not something that necessarily comes naturally to me. It is something that, like, I've had to learn and build on. So when I go to Yarncentrick, Maryland Sheep and Wool, and things like that, and I'm going by myself, there is, like I said, I'm not the kind of person that's just gonna that's not gonna easily make a whole bunch of friends or anything like that. I'm happy to talk to whoever. And I definitely talked to people while I was there, but I'm always going to be the kind of person that, like, oh, I don't want to get in your way. I don't want to. So I'm not going to like try to push things forward. I'm always going to kind of like backpedal so that everybody has the freedom to do their thing. That's how I look at it. That's how I interpret things. So anyway, all of that being said, to say that I really enjoyed going to Yarncentrick and Maryland Sheep and Wool, and I'm really glad that I had those experiences. I will say that I don't know, and I will definitely do it again. And I've gone to other fiber festivals, and I've gone by myself, and it's been all right. I mean, they've been good, but this is the first time like this is very different than those experiences, because I was there for this. I was there for more than one day and so on. Whereas other yarn festivals and things like that I've gone to in the past, they've been local. I drive there, even if it's a few hours away. I drive there, I stay as long as I want, I drive home, and then I can do whatever. This is like, I go back to my hotel, you know? And so all that being said, if you are like me and you're going to something like this on your own, these are things you may want to take into account. Now, again, I'm trying to give you a background of my own personality and where I don't feel like I'm necessarily very good at kind of injecting myself into social situations. Whereas if that's not an issue for you or a concern for you, or that's something that you're very, very comfortable with, I don't think you maybe will have some of the same hesitations that I had, where I don't know how often I would want to go to something like this by myself, and not know anybody. For somebody else more outgoing than me, I'm sure that it'd be great. And again, I feel like I'm middle of the road. I would say at this point in my life, I'm very middle of the road. I'm happy to talk to whoever and do whatever, but I also, like I said, I tend to pull back rather than push forward. That's the best way I can describe it. So that being the case, Yarncentrick, I really enjoyed Yarncentrick. I got the first tickets. I went in the morning, and at first, I admit I was a little overwhelmed because when I first went in, I just thought it was like felt. I feel like this is the case at every yarn festival I've ever been to. When you first go in, it feels very crowded, and then over time, everybody just kind of disperses and gets into their little booths and everything, and then you can move around and you can walk into booths and you can see more. Whereas when you first walk in, you feel like you can't even go into a booth. You can't even look at anything because like there's just so many people already in there. There's no way to fit yourself in. Um, so that I had that same experience. Like it pretty quickly kind of uh, dissipated out, where I went into every booth I wanted to go into. I didn't feel comfortable going into any booth because it was overcrowded or anything like that. Now, granted, when I first walked through, there was a couple I skipped because they were too full, especially closer to like the entrance. But then I made a couple loops and was fine. And I could get in and, like I said, look at whatever I wanted to and so on. And I didn't have any problems. And then, and when I went into the different booths and stuff like that, like you know, if somebody started talking to me and I would talk back to them, or when I was checking out, I would talk to the people who were checking me out, and like, and I really tried to be good about being like, "Hi, how are you? How are you doing today?" and so on, to try to like have some amount of conversations and stuff like that. So I wasn't just like walking around like that all day. Um, so I did, try to do those things, and it was very enjoyable. And the thing is, and I can't say this enough, no matter who you are or if you're going in a group by yourself, whatever your situation is, everyone is extremely nice and extremely friendly. And people are quick to say hi or to talk to you and say, "Hey, like your sweater," or, "Oh, what," you can stop somebody and say, "Hey, where did you get that?" Like everyone's very friendly and willing to answer those questions and do those kinds of things. So that experience, so you definitely can have those interactions as much as you want. Um, and have those kinds of conversations. So that was enough for me. Like I was happy with that, and I was able to go through and, like I said, have those kind of small little conversations here and there throughout that time. Now, my ticket time was from 9 to I think 11 o'clock, because that is like a pop-up thing, is a smaller venue. There is timed tickets. I think I was done by like 10:30, and um, I wound up, there were some vans out, some trucks outside, some yarn trucks, store trucks. I went outside and checked those out. I got a coffee, and I wound up leaving, which was fine. But um, that was kind of my experience of Yarncentrick. And that being said, I found some beautiful yarn. I'll hold some up. This was some Fangirl Fibers, Adopt a Yarn Daddy. This is Keanu. This, can you see that sparkle and the little tweeds? I am obsessed. This was yarn. This is one of the few things that I bought that I had no real pattern in mind for what I was going to buy, that I just kind of randomly bought. I tried to be really good about buying things with a specific pattern in mind. As I said, if you saw my videos or saw my Instagram posts, you would know that. But I did find a pattern that I think I'm going to make with these. So that was Fangirl Fibers. I also, let me see. Also, there was Yarn Jam was at Yarncentric. I picked up this yarn. Love this color. This is a bamboo fingering. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% bamboo, super soft, 436 yards, 100 grams. Oh, I should have said, this is 90% superwash merino, 5% stellina, 5% acrylic neps, 436 yards. This is, and that's colorway Keanu. This is colorway Lagoon. So if you watched my video, you know that there was on the live action One Piece show on Netflix, there is an episode in the second season where Nami wears a ribbed short sleeve sweater in about this color that I wanted to dupe and try to make. So I got this yarn for that. And I'm really excited about that. Really soft. Yarn Jam booth, they were very nice. It was nicely set up. Same with Fangirl Fibers. I spoke with her. I spoke with, I'm not sure who the gentleman was I talked to at Yarn Jam, but he was very nice. When I was in the Black Pearl Magic was at Yarncentrick. That's where I got that bag. They were very nice and chatted with them. Again, everybody was just so nice, no matter who you talked to or what booth you went in. I also got, sorry, I'm digging through between my Maryland Sheep and Wool and my Yarncentrick. So I also went to the Red Pansy Yarn Studio booth. They were also very, very nice. And so one of the things that I had wanted was some sock yarn to continue on my sock journey. I wanted some minis so that I could do some colorwork socks. So I picked this up. I thought these colors were so pretty. She also had some sock sets with like the variegated yarns in like one of these colored minis to go with it. And she had a few different variegated yarns. So, but I decided to go ahead and just get the bundle of minis and just get one of these because, well, I was really on a goal to just get solid color yarn so that I could make lace and cable socks. But, you know, what can you do when you see something this pretty? So I will make something with this and use probably some leftovers from this for my heels, socks, and toes. Maybe we'll figure that one out. But this is called Rococo Bold. That must be the colorway. Superwash Merino Soft Sock Mini Set, 75% Superwash Merino, 25% nylon, 6 mini skeins, 92 yards, 20 grams each, 4-ply fingering. Look at this again. Aren't they pretty? Okay, and then this is from the Impressionism collection, and I can't really pronounce that. I'm going to do my best. Jardin du Yarncentrick. Yeah, we'll hope that's right. This is Superwash Merino Soft Sock, 75% fine Superwash Merino, 25% nylon, 436 yards, 100 grams, 3-ply fingering. This is 4-ply fingering. So again, very pretty. I'll show you this name so you can see yeah, that is what I was trying to pronounce. So that is the Red Pansy Yarn Studio. So that is what I picked up there. Okay, so Yarncentrick is in Frederick, Maryland, which is about an hour west of Baltimore. So in Frederick is also the flagship store for Magpie Fibers. I have gone there before because, again, I've been in Maryland before for work, although granted, several hours away is where I have to go for work. But anyway, so after I went to Yarncentrick, I went to Magpie Fibers store, and it's super cute downtown. There's cute little stores. There's like, it's kind of this historic, like there's a little, I'm assuming it's a canal that you can like walk on. It's like a little park. So restaurants, all the stuff. So, and there's some parking decks or whatever down there. So I parked down there and went to Magpie Fibers. And as I've made other things with their summer weight yarn, and I was really on a summer weight yarn kick. I tend to be when I go to these things because I do dye my own wool yarns when I want something specific. So it's usually more the unique fibers that I'm looking for when I go to fiber festivals and things like that. Anyway, that being said, I went there. Now, one of the things I had in mind was a very specific version of the Autumn Alpine. And that somebody had made with a dark purple, and they did like a fuzzy yarn for the flower. And I knew that there was a potential that I could find something like that at Magpie Fibers with their one of their yarn bases they have there called Nest Sport, and the Autumn Alpine is sport weight yarn. I already have the pattern. So that being said, when I was looking around, I saw this yarn. So this is Plume. This is called Starlight. It is 76% cashmere and 25% silk and 25 grams lace weight. It is the softest thing. It's so soft. And so I got, and it's like, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a very, very light purpley, periwinkly blue color. But I thought this would make a good part for the flower portion, just the like flowers, not the leaves of the alpine bloom, but just the flower part, that I would use this as the person I saw who made it that I was kind of trying to dupe what they did. But they used the whiter color. I thought this purpley color would be good. So Magpie Fibers also has a really, really dark color, purple color called Midnight Underground. I think that's what it's called, Midnight Underground. They did not have it in stock, but I did order it and they're shipping it to me in their Nest Sport. So I do not have that, but I ordered it. So once I have that, I'll show that to you. But I think that it's like a very, very dark purple. So I think it'll look really good with this. So I will get that. When I got home, I did pick up this. I don't know for sure if I'm going to use it, but I picked up this for the leaves. So we'll see if that works once I have the purple and I swatch it all together. But I think that could be really, really pretty. So that was Magpie Fibers. They also happen to have Wandering Flock. And they said they had it just for that weekend. And I have been very interested in Wandering Flock's summer yarn base. And they had it there. So I decided to go ahead and pick it up because I touched it and I could feel it. And I had not had a chance to ever do that before. And I thought that why not? That was what I wanted, was summer yarns. So I picked this up. This is 35% organic cotton, 30% mulberry silk, 20% linen, and 15% baby alpaca. And it is sport weight, 100 grams. And this colorway is, I don't know, it doesn't say. Here, I'll show you the tag. You see that? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this was the other thing that I picked up that I didn't really have. I thought, in fairness, I thought when I picked it up that I had enough yarn to use this double to make a tank top, but it turns out it was not enough. I wasn't really thinking, and I didn't. So I had to go back and kind of figure out a pattern for this. That being said, I am going to make the Poet tee, the short sleeve version of the Poet pattern or whatever by Sari Nordlund, and I think that'll look really cool in this like citrine green color. So that is the other thing I bought. So that was Yarncentrick Day. I was done there by probably almost by 11:30, I want to say. I wound up going to a place across the street from Magpie Fibers, getting some lunch. Some other people came in while I was sitting there that clearly were also people who had gone to Yarncentrick and the different fiber festivals and stuff, and had also probably gone to Magpie Fibers and come over. So you definitely felt surrounded by your people. Again, though, I was by myself. So I worked on my socks and sat and ate. Then I went for a walk and walked around. I walked in the park. I sat down on benches and I did some knitting down there on my socks and stuff, and wound up going back to my room and spending the rest of the evening in my hotel. That being said, again, I clearly, even in my hotel, there was people there that were also going to Yarncentrick and were there for Maryland Sheep and Wool. And like every time I walked through the lobby or anything like that, they would say hi to me and would like chat, how was your day, blah, blah, blah. So, again, everybody was super friendly and nice. But um, anyway, that was that. So it didn't really fill my day. It was kind of just like half the day. So I wound up spending the rest of the day kind of just hanging out in my hotel room, which isn't a bad thing. That's fine. I think for me, it would have been a little better if I hadn't already spent 4 or 5 days in a hotel for work. So I'd already been spending my evenings kind of doing whatever I wanted in the hotel room. So that wasn't, it's always fun for like a couple days, but I'd have been doing it for a couple days. So that wasn't my best, I don't think. But either way, it was fine. I hung out and did that. And then the next day I got up and I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool. Um, it opened at 8:30. I knew we didn't want to get there that early, but I'm an early riser. So I went to a local coffee place and um, got some coffee and some breakfast. And then I went over to Maryland Sheep and Wool. And when I got there, I think it was about 9:30. It was much larger than I expected. Much, much larger than I expected. Like I knew it was going to be bigger than anything I'd ever gone to. And I knew it was at a fairgrounds, which I've gone to other fiber festivals at fairgrounds. But granted, they were more local to me, so I know they're not as big or anything like that as this, where like people, come pretty far to go to. Like I knew it was big, but it was, like I said, much bigger than I anticipated, and which isn't a bad thing. That's just the reality of if you've never been there, that's what it's like. So there was like, I think there was like 6 barns of like yarn vendors and knitting related things like spinning and so on and notions and stuff like that and bags. And then there were several barns of just sheep and animals, and there was tents out along like outside of the barns. There was tents with more vendors in it. There was another couple big tents like up the hill. There was tons of food trucks and things like that there was 2 sections of like plants and stuff that you could get for plants for dyeing like natural dyes and for your fibers, and I don't even know what all because I didn't go look at those. But so there was tons. And like I could tell as soon as you pulled into park because they were like directing you where to park, and you're parking out in these big fields and there's already like, which like when you're going to the county fair. But I was just so surprised by how much of it was full. So anyway, wasn't that warm. I thought it was going to be warmer. So I didn't even take a coat. It wasn't that warm. So I was a little chilly. I did have a sweater on, but it was a little chilly. So then I go, again, I got there kind of early, but I went and it was again one of those like as soon as it was the same experience, but times 50 as Yarncentrick. When I walked in, it was like everywhere you went was just like every booth was with people. There was no movement. There was no way to like you'd have to wait your turn to even just get in, let alone walk around in it and look at stuff. And like I walked through a couple barns and I literally just walked through the barns. And I mean, when I say walk, I mean I stood, took a couple steps, stood, took a couple steps, stood while I waited for the people around me to move. And personally, I don't mind that stuff. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't have anything else to do. I'm here to enjoy the festival. This is what I'm here for. And so that doesn't bother me at all. Um, I was a little bit like, am I going to be able to look at anything? Because it's so crowded. And again, I'm not the type that it's going to like, I'm not going to push my way into anywhere. That's just not my nature. And I don't mean that pushy, like push your way in like like that's a bad thing. It's just very counter to who I am to like weasel my way in. Um, as you kind of have to do to these things. Um, so anyway, I walked through. So I walked through, I think maybe 3 or so barns. I wound up finally finding the main barn. Walked through the main barn, and I think I walked into maybe 1 or 2 booths. Walked around the whole thing. By the time I came back around, walked through it once, and I thought, okay, there was a couple booths I couldn't get into at all, but I really wanted to go see. So I thought I'd go back through and go back into those and try to get into them and wait my turn and whatever, because I just didn't really want to wait my turn before that. And so I decided to go ahead and go back around and try that again. And by that point, it was the same kind of thing, like I said, from the day before, and like what I've experienced at other yarn festivals. And honestly, I've gone to board game festivals where I've had the same thing, where when it first starts, it just takes a while for everybody to like filter out and go like start sitting down and snacking and going using the restroom and like spread out to all the different facets and booths, so that there aren't just like a few really, really crowded spots. So that had happened. So then I could walk around, and while it was still pretty crowded, I could get into every booth I wanted to get into. Granted, I did have to wait my turn a couple times, and I did have to kind of, it was definitely a little slower moving, which again, I don't care. I didn't have anything else to do anyways. That's no big deal to me at all. But I didn't feel like I was in anyone's way where I had earlier in the day. Like I felt like I was just in the way. I felt comfortably like I could walk around and, like I said, look at whatever I wanted and do whatever I wanted. But that being said, it was still busy enough that compared to Yarncentrick, where I talked to people and I would whatever, I did not feel like it felt too busy to talk to people. So while there were a couple little tiny conversations I had here or there, while I was at Maryland Sheep and Wool, it was very minimal, because again, it just felt like you're in the way. Everybody, like when you're trying to check out at a booth, there's a line behind you. There's people trying to do stuff. Like there's just not like that ability, and that's okay. That's not a necessary thing, um, by any means. It was a little less enjoyable for me though, who's by themselves and was really hoping to at least have like some minor interactions like I did at Yarncentrick, where I felt very, very alone. Um, and again, that's okay. It's not a big deal. It wasn't a problem. Um, but if I'm being very, very honest, it wasn't the most enjoyable thing I've ever done. It wasn't the most fun or exciting. It's not like, I feel like at Yarncentric or some of these other fiber festivals I've been to, I could turn to somebody and just be like, "Oh, you like this? Like, what do you think?" Like, I did that at Magpie Fibers. When I had this, I was trying to pick out which color, and I was talking to the lady next to me, and I was like, "Oh, do you think this works for me?" And she was like, "Oh, yeah, that'll be great." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna get it." Like, you can have those kinds of little interactions. I didn't feel like that was really possible at Maryland Sheep and Wool just because of how crowded it was. And that just for me personally, and my personality and how I am, that and what, you know, being, like I said, being by myself, it wasn't as much fun for me. If I had been there with somebody else that I was, that we'd gone together, so I had that person to talk to the whole time, it would have been different. But again, I didn't have that. So, like I said, it was fine. Just something to know. If you're anything like me, maybe you're not like me at all, so none of this matters. This is just my experience of how it felt as I went through being me and who I am. So I just wanted to share that experience. So anyway, I went through, I was able to get everything I wanted. Like I said, I did talk to a couple people, but very, very few. And it was very short, but I did talk to a couple people. I wound up going back to a couple booths, and I got from Seven Sisters Arts, I got this yarn called Kindle, and it is 210 yards, 4 ounces, 4 ply worsted, and it is Let's see. It's on the front. It is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. Super soft. I was in love with how beautifully saturated these colors were in this like orangey red color. So I plan to make the Colette top with this yarn. Um, the tanky top version top. And so I'm very excited about that. From the same booth, I got, which was also, because it was just the Seven Sisters Arts booth, I also got this yarn, this purple. I don't know if you can tell in this light, but the silk like almost sparkles. It's so pretty. And this base is called Astrid Fingering. It is 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. And this colorway is called Raven. That shimmer. I just love how saturated these colors are. I just thought they were so pretty. So with this, I plan on making, I was going to hold it double to make the Lily top. And, oh, it's double. There's 4. And then the other booth I went into was called Fiber Optics and Fiber Optic Yarn. And this is their cashmere fingering weight. This is the colorway Fur. And this is 80% superwash merino wool, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 420 yards. And I plan to make the Summerwood top with this. And I, again, think it's so pretty how saturated and beautiful these colors are. This is what I think too. I think I looked them up later, or maybe I saw something when I was in there. I think they might be from Ohio. Could be wrong on that, but I think they might be from Ohio. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll see them at some other farm fiber festivals closer to home. So yeah, so I checked that out as well. I had seen the Aisling yarns, which my sock yarn is from, that I've bought sock yarn from them before at other fiber festivals, local ones to me. I saw that they were supposed to be there. I couldn't find them after I'd gone through all the barns like 3 times. Like, no, I went through all the barns twice. And was like, I could have sworn they're supposed to be here. And I like looked them up on Instagram and they were definitely supposed to be there. So I like literally had to keep walking. Finally walked up a hill and found more tents, and that is where they were. And I will be honest with you, at that point in the day, I was kind of done. I was just done. And honestly, I thought I'll probably see them in a couple weeks at the Great Lakes Fiber Festival, like 40 minutes from my house. So while I wanted to show them support and whatever, there was people in their booth, whatever, and I knew that I could see them again. So I will check them out at the next fiber festival I go to for sure, and definitely pick up some yarn from them. I think they're very nice people, and my limited experience with them, I don't know them personally, but anytime I've gone to their booth, they've been very nice, and I like their yarn. They specifically carry a lot of BFL sock yarn, so I wanted to get more of that too. But yeah, so I'll definitely have to check them out later. So that was kind of my day. I think I finished up there at like, also, by the way, there was very, very long lines for all the restrooms, unless you wanted to go to a porta potty, which I didn't really want to do because, you know, smells. But so keep that in mind. Anyway, so I think I left. So again, I got there about 9:30, and I think I left at maybe like 11:30. So I mean, I was there for a good amount of time. And like I said, I felt like I saw everything I wanted to see. I went through everywhere I wanted to go through. I definitely could have stayed and looked at more. There was like contests going on where the one the announcement when I was leaving was for like a kids kind of like almost like a county fair type thing where it was like different things you could like submit stuff for like prizes or whatever. And then there was the animals, and there was shearings, and there was different events, and there was like a lot of things you could see. And like I said, I didn't even really go over to any of the plant sections. I didn't eat while I was there. So anyway, so I wound up leaving and going back to my hotel and just kind of chilling and hanging out the rest of the day. And then I got up and flew home in the morning. So that was that. So all that to be said, would I go again? Yes. Would I go every year? No. Would I would I would go to Yarncentrick again. Here's the thing, for the distance, it's tough. I would definitely go to Yarncentric again, and it's great that Magpie Fibers is there, so you could also go over there because that's a great store and I love their yarn. So, and that little area is cute and all of that. So you can definitely make a day of that and have a good time, especially like I said, I think if you know people and you're meeting up with people, it'd be fantastic. Um, being again by myself, I don't know. I would probably do that part again. I don't, I definitely would not go to Maryland Sheep and Wool every year. Um, it's just a lot. And day two, and I don't know. Would I go again though? Yes, I would. And I would go again by myself. It wasn't, it just, I will, to be very, very clear, they're both great festivals. Everyone was extremely kind and extremely nice. And I have no complaints about anything at all. But again, if you're going, things to know. It is a little crowded, little crowded at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I'm sure probably the second day or later in the day, on the first day, it's probably better and it's probably not as bad. So that's something you may want to take into account if you think that's going to be a thing for you. If you're going to if you're going all by yourself and you don't know anyone like me, um, just know what kind of person you are and how much enjoyment you might get out of your interactions. If you're gonna, I feel confident that this is the kind of place where you could sit down with some people knitting and they would totally welcome you and bring you in. Again, I'm not that person, so I'm not gonna do that. That's just not my nature. And but again, I feel like you could 100% do that and you would have been welcomed. That is the type of people in the environment that is there. Um, so anyway, that's my take. That was my personal experience. Again, take it for what it's worth. I would definitely encourage you to check it out if that's something you think you might be interested in. And just again, keep in mind what kind of person you are and your personality and what might work best for you so that you have the most enjoyment. That's the goal of me telling you all of this and how I felt about it, is so that I can just give you my very honest opinion as me, as the kind of person I am. And hopefully, like I said, that explains a little bit to you about, you can kind of translate that to who you are and which parts of that you think would be a problem for you or not be a problem for you so that you can make the most fun out of your trip. There we go. That's what I'm going for here. So hopefully that helps. I'm very excited about all my yarn. I'm very, very excited about all of my plans coming up and all the projects. I'm literally so excited. Uh, it's kind of overwhelming because I don't even know where to start because there's just so much I'm excited about to start to get it on. But first, I had to finish my little Fosteriana. That's the first thing. So I would love to hear what your take was. Maybe how you approach some of those things. Do you go to fiber festivals by yourself? Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it got a little windy there at the end, but I hope it was fun for you and you got something out of it. And I hope to see you next time. And I just have the best week, all the fun with your projects, all the things. And I'd love to hear from you and whatever you're working on or whatever you're up to. Have a great day. Bye.